this. Ministry Police Academy fight Police Service Commission over admission for degree programs. Police rescue 6 abducted law students in Benue State. OBS Kwesili questions amendment of Nigeria's constitution. Charade discloses sheer waste of resources. And now moving on to the political scene. The ADC has berated the slander on it, says that no weapon from the APC will tarnish its reputation. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu moves to end poverty nationwide, approves new program. Still on party politics, ADC rejects Bala's claim to party's leadership, releases resignation letter. Also, Governor Deleke speaks on dumping PDP for APC. Any attempt to replace Shetima will backfire. APC youth warn President Tinubu ahead of 2027 polls. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Federal Health Institution sectors, has denied reports that the union has suspended its ongoing nationwide 7-day warning strike. Speaking with correspondents today, the National Public Relations Officer, Omomo Timbebi, clarified that the strike, which began on Wednesday, remains in effect despite a meeting with the minister earlier in the day. The nurses embarked on the strike to press home their long-standing demands, including an upward review of shift allowance, adjustment of uniform allowance, a separate salary structure for nurses, an increase for nurses, as well as increase in core duty allowances, mass recruitment of nurses, and the establishment of a nursing department in the Federal Ministry of Health, amongst others. Well, he added that the union's National Executive Council would meet tomorrow, being Saturday, to review the federal government's promises and determine the next line of action. Meanwhile, hospitals nationwide continue to feel the impact of the strike, with patients facing disruptions in healthcare delivery. Overwhelmed by patient loads, the few available medical staff members are struggling to maintain basic operations. Many patients have been discharged due to the shortage of nurses. Numerous hospital wards remain deserted. Skeletal services are running in some areas, while others are completely shut down. The Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission, Dr. Aisha Garba, has declared that Nigeria's education sector is facing a crisis of great magnitude, requiring the concerted efforts of all stakeholders to ensure quality basic education for children. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting co-hosted by the Nigerian Governors Forum and UBEC in Abuja, Garba highlighted the dual challenges of the country's massive out-of-school population, recently estimated by UNESCO at 20 million, and the growing learning crisis where children enrolled in schools fail to acquire basic literacy and numeracy skills. According to a statement today, the meeting brought together top education policymakers from all 36 states alongside technical experts and development partners from the World Bank, European Union and UNICEF. In her opening address, Garba warned that the future of millions of children and the nation's overall development were at risk, emphasizing the urgent need for synergy amongst government, including stakeholders. As part of efforts to address the crisis, she unveiled the Hope Edu program, a major government initiative developed in partnership with international donors. She said, and I quote, "Through the Hope Edu program, the $552 million partnership between the federal government of Nigeria, the World Bank, and the Global Partnership for Education, they're responding with the urgency the crisis demands. This both strategic and multi-sectoral initiative is designed to address foundational learning gaps and reduce the number of out-of-school children through coordinated state-led action." Speaking further, she said the country is facing an education crisis of great magnitude, where millions of Nigerian children remain out of school, while many of those enrolled are not acquiring the foundational literacy and numeracy skill essential for lifelong success. Now, the Ministry of Police Affairs and the Nigeria Police Academy, Wudil, Kano State, have dismissed a disclaimer issued by the Police Service Commission on July 31, 2025 as misleading and inaccurate. Well, the PSC, through the head of press and public relations, Ikechukwu Ani, had on Thursday disowned an advert published by the Police Academy calling for applications for admission into the 12th regular course degree programs of Nigerian Police Force. The PSA said the advert, which set the application window from July 20 28th to September 8th, 2025 is a violation of procedure and an attempt to undermine its constitutional mandate. The Police Service Commission said it has the sole authority to appoint persons into the Nigerian Police Force as affirmed by both the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. However, reacting today, the Director of Information and Public Relations of the Ministry of Police Affairs, Bolaji Kazeem, in a statement on behalf of the Police Academy, clarified that the admission and application for admission into the 12th regular course degree programs remains valid and ongoing. The ministry stated that the admission process is being conducted in line with the guidelines of the National Universities Commission and the Federal Ministry of Police Affairs, adding that the PSC has no constitutional role in university admissions. Former Minister of Education and Chief Executive Officer of Human Capital Africa, Obiageli Ezekwesili, has described the ongoing constitution amendment by the National Assembly as a charade and waste of public funds. Ezekwesili insisted that amending the constitution cannot work nor address all the imbalances and inequalities facing the country. The senior economic advisor on the Africa Economic Development Policy Initiative stated this on Thursday while delivering her keynote address at the 7th Pen Pushing Anniversary, an annual lecture held in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. She asserted that a new constitution that places a higher priority on devolution of powers, justice, equity and fairness to all people, regardless of tribes and ethnicities, is the only way to address the country's overall problems. She also disclosed that while lamenting that the politics had been hijacked and turned into a criminal enterprise gang, stressed that good governance is not mysterious and could be replicated here in the country. Also speaking, the chairman of the occasion, Ambassador Sarafa Ishola, the immediate past Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, stated that responsible governance, institutional clarity, budgetary equality, and citizen-driven accountability are all essential components of true federalism. He opined that in order to overcome some of the obstacles preventing efficient administration of the nation, Nigerians must embrace restructuring as a national revival strategy rather than viewing it as a sectional agenda. In a very recent development, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a nationwide grassroots-focused initiative aimed at combating poverty and stimulating economic growth across Nigeria's 8,809 political wards. The new initiative, titled the Renewed Hope Ward Development Program, was formally adopted on Thursday during the 150th meeting of the National Economic Council held at the State House, Abuja. Conceived as a core component of Tinubu's broader Renewed Hope agenda, which targets a $1 trillion economy by 2030, it seeks to strengthen rural development through coordinated interventions in poverty alleviation, food security, infrastructure, energy access, and job creation. Addressing state governors at the meeting, President Tinubu called for urgent action to uplift citizens at the grassroots level. He said, and I quote, "Let us change the story of our people in the rural areas. The economy is working. We are on the path of recovery, but we need to stimulate growth in the rural areas." Under the new strategy, each ward will host a minimum of 1,000 to 2,000 economic activities depending on its size. The program will be supervised by a national steering committee with the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning serving as its secretariat. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, who presented the program to the council, emphasized that implementation would involve collaboration among all three tiers of government. To ensure effective execution, President Tinubu announced the relocation of the Office of the Surveyor General of the Federation to the Presidency. He also directed the expansion of the National School Feeding Program to boost school enrollment and combat child poverty. Now, the African Democratic Congress has dismissed the claim of its former Deputy National Chairman, Honorable Nafiu Bala, to the party's national chairmanship. Speaking at a press conference in Abuja, Bala, who previously served as the ADC's National Deputy Chairman, accused the David Mark-led interim leadership of unlawfully taking over the party in breach of its constitution. He said the constitution of the ADC contains explicit provisions outlining succession procedures and processes for filling vacant positions. The chieftain said, in line line with the party's constitutional guidelines, he has assumed the role of interim national chairman of the party. Bala asks INEC to urgently acknowledge and recognize him as the party chairman. He substantiated the dismissal of the claim with the release of Bala's resignation letter as deputy national chairman on May 17, 2025, where he said he resigned his position for smooth and effective coalition restructuring. This statement was made by the ADC National Publicity Secretary Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, dismissing Bala's claim that he is the chairman of the ADC. He released the resignation letter of Bala's letter and concerning the deputy national chairmanship on May 17, where he resigned the position for a smooth and effective coalition. According to the resignation letter addressed to the party's national chairman in Abuja, Oyo Street, Area 2, Gariki, Abuja, his departure took effect on May 26, 2025. Bala's resignation letter, as released by the ADC spokesman, was titled Letter of Resignation as Deputy National Chairman of the African Democratic Congress. The letter is across all media platforms to ensure transparency to those who are doubting what the ADC Publicity Secretary said. Meanwhile, Governor Adeleke Ademola of Osun State has dismissed reports that he is planning to dump the People's Democratic Party for the new opposition coalition in the African Democratic Congress. Reports that rumors had emerged claiming that the Osun State governor is plotting to form an alliance with the ADC ahead of the state 2026 gubernatorial election. But reacting in a statement today, Adeleke spokesperson Olawale Rashid affirmed that the governor remains in the PDP and is going to win with wide margins the 2026 governorship elections. You're currently listening to the World News right here in Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll take more news and head into a news analysis segment. Do kindly stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is still the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Former National Legal Advisor of the People's Democratic Party, Jacob Mark, has stated that the coalition opposition, which operates under the platform of the African Democratic Congress, would never give its presidential ticket to Mr. Peter Obi. He made the claim while responding to claims by the Publicity Secretary of the ADC, Bolaji Abdullahi, that Obi would do himself more harm than good by returning to the People's Democratic Party. Speaking during an interview recently, Mark described Abdullahi as a man who jumps from one political party to another in search of appointment and where to grab power. He argued that Peter Obi would only be deceiving himself if he thought the opposition coalition meant well for him. Well, as that particular conversation is ongoing, the All Progressives Congress Youth in the Northeast Zone has cautioned party leaders against moves to replace Vice President Kashim Shettima on the party's ticket for the 2027 general election. The group warned that such a decision could damage the party's unity and President Bola Tinubu's re-election chances. Speaking at a press conference on Friday very recently in Bauchi, the group's chairman Kabiru Kobi described the speculation over Shettima's possible substitution as a dangerous rumor capable of destabilizing the APC. Kobe stressed that the APC Youth Parliament remains firmly behind the Tinubu-Shettima ticket, describing the duo as tested and trusted leaders who have demonstrated the capacity to steer the country through challenging times. He warned that the party must avoid repeating mistakes made by the PDP in 2015 when internal strife contributed to its electoral defeat. Well, time for a news analysis segment, and I have joining me via the telephone Mr. Elvis Alle, who is a journalist, a political and national affairs commentator. Mr. Elvis Alle, good evening and thank you for joining us today.
Good evening, Esther. How are you doing?
I'm fine. It's been quite a while, Mr. Elvis.
Yeah, it's quite a while. I traveled out of Lagos. I'm combining journalism with farming now, so I want to look after my farm this
In
period.
fact,
So I
Mr.
just came back.
Elvis, this is basically one of the things I wanted to ask you. So, you know the Renewed Hope agenda. There are segments and categories of the Renewed Hope initiative of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. One of them is actually for the agricultural sector. There are opportunities for farmers to get loans from the government, and I want to understand. I know that you are one of the persons that have submitted a proposal. So, what's the process like?
Well, we call for submission of proposals, and we have to do it through the various states. But we are believing that the state has to do the job. I mean, push it to the federal government as expected. Well, we are looking at Agri Bank to look into our matter, because some of us who are involved in farming, we actually need government support so much, because if you see what we are going through, Esther, you will pity us. To move your produce out from the farm to the market, the cost of transportation it outweighs what you are going to sell in the market. So at the end of the day, farmers just do the job. They don't make anything out of it. So we are just looking at soft loan to be able to get farm vehicles to move. You only just know you are going to fuel your vehicle and bring the produce to the market. At least it's still cheaper than you are going to sell your produce in the market maybe for 100,000, and the driver is charging you for 120,000 or 100,000 to get the produce to the market. So we are believing that, I mean, with this the president calling on the governors to actually come into agriculture to eradicate poverty, which is actually a very nice thing, because the fastest way to reduce poverty in this nation, or to eradicate it totally, is through agriculture. You see why it becomes so prevalent now, that Nigerians are becoming so very poor and things are difficult, because of this crisis in the north. Most of these youths who were actually involved in farming in the north are now riding motorcycles, in various states, because they cannot go to farm. They are doing other menial jobs. So if these youth were in the farm, Northerners are very good at farming. If they were in the farm, this poverty would have been reduced, and food crisis won't have been an issue in Nigeria. But many of them that are not in the farm now because of this insecurity are even in IDP camp. Look at what is happening in Benue State. Benue State alone can feed West Africa in terms of food production. But unfortunately, 80% of Benue people who are supposed to be in the farm are even in IDP camp, now begging for palliatives to survive. So these are just some of the issues. But we just believe that as the federal government is taking the initiative, the subnational will also try as much as able to key into it, and even the local government, so that food, I mean, if hunger is reduced from suffering, is taken out of suffering will reduce drastically. But in a situation where you get home, you cannot feed yourself, and you cannot even afford it in the market, that's why you are saying things are becoming so tough with Nigerians. But I pray that the governors, instead of building government houses with billions of naira, state government houses with billions of naira, then consulting airports, even when you know that the states are not viable for airports, you are consulting them. Channel this thing to people who will make use of it, that it will trickle down to Nigerians. Nigerians will affect it. It will affect Nigerians directly. That's what we are looking at, Esther.
Mr. Elvis Alle, thank you so much for that particular aspect. So, you know that the school feeding initiative, can you remember the school feeding initiative from the Renewed Hope agenda that was meant to commence in March this year, where about 100 billion naira, 100 billion naira actually, 100 million naira was earmarked for that, at least the beginning aspect of the school feeding program. And so they said not just for children, but for widows, for women as well. That money is basically what is meant to be. So, but here is the thing. The fate of over 9 million pupils hangs in the balance as uncertainty clouds the federal government's national homegrown school feeding program. The program's uncertain future with the end of the first quarter of 2025 threatens the livelihoods of over 250,000 individuals, including cooks, farmers, and other stakeholders who depend on it for outcome. So before the suspension, you recall that in January 2024, the program had created about 34,869 direct jobs for cooks, right? And not just that, staff involved in the food preparation and distribution process. It also supports the livelihood of an estimated 80,000 farmers, 127,000 food vendors, and 100 aggregators across 30 states. The scheme was aimed at enhancing the health, well-being, and educational outcomes of pupils by providing them with nutritious meals, encouraging school attendance towards improved educational outcome. And the current administration had told us that by March they will begin that, but there is a suspension of the school feeding initiative, and it leaves 9 million pupils, 250,000 jobs stranded. Why was it suspended? What happened? Were they not certain of the initiative? If that proposal or that initiative was supposedly brought out to the fore in 2024, official commencement was meant to start in March 2025. They had begun processes for cooks, women who would also be responsible for feeding the children, also outsourcing vendors as well for providing school feeding materials to these different schools. So what happened? Why the suspension?
Well, I'm still not comfortable with the pronounced suspension, Esther. Because,
and Mr. Elvis, it is not 100 million, because 100 million cannot do what that estimate is. 100 billion.
Billion. It's
Okay.
billion. We're talking of the 36 states and the federal capital.
Yes.
You know, so we are looking. I'm confused about why such suspension we have to come up at this time, Esther. It's at the time where the UNESCO is talking about the out-of-school children in Nigeria kept increasing. One, at the time too, where we are talking about how to reduce, like we are just talking about eradicate poverty. You just mentioned the number of persons that are going to be taken out of employment. You know, if this laudable program is suspended, the farmers, the food vendors, and even the children that we are talking about capturing, increasing the enrollment standard of Nigerian children, taking them out of the streets, will also be improved on. But I want to believe that this suspension is something that everybody will have to look into, because if you look at what is going on in Nigeria at this time, if we don't curb it, in another 5 years to 10 years from now, we cannot manage the crisis that is going to happen if these children are not taken out of street, and a project of this nature is not concretized to the extent that every government coming into power, even after Tinubu's government, will not play politics with it. Because what governance is supposed to be, government is supposed to be, ameliorate the suffering of the people and bring support to the people, and for everybody that are involved in as citizens of the nation supposed to enjoy. So I think the National Assembly should look into why the suspension, and like we are mentioning it now in this program this evening, Esther, every other person should also mention some things of this nature, so that even if there was proposed rumor to suspend it or whatever, the government should reverse it, because it's a laudable project. So many countries have actually used this to actually show up their education standard. India has done something of this nature with the population of almost about 1.something billion. They feed children in school. So many other countries, even China, have done this. So Nigeria should not be an exception, especially when we are talking about the number of children that are out of school, and it's becoming a spite on our face in Nigeria, that in Africa, Nigeria, even in the world, when you look at the ranking, that among the number of children that are out of school, Nigeria is among the top 5. So we should not even encourage the government to think of suspending something of this nature.
The reason why I asked that question is because there is a recent initiative that was, cleared off. The president has said that they want to end poverty by all means, and they have already begun the process for that. I think you must have heard me when I read it during the World News I was reading it.
I was still going there because the president has actually instructed the state governors that they should do more. Eradicating poverty.
To end poverty nationwide.
Yes, nationwide. And especially mentioned agriculture, which we have started with when we started this discussion, Esther. And part of the way to make it so laudable is that when food are produced in Nigeria and Nigerian government is able to use part of it adequately to take care of this feeding of these children. This is not something that is supposed to be imported. We can farm for this to take care of this program. It will become something that will be very laudable and everybody will enjoy it. So the state governors, that's where I was going. The state governors have a lot to also do in this matter. They are taking so much from Abuja now since the fuel subsidy been removed. And we hear the trillion they share every month as federal account allocation committee shares every month to every state. The state governor should be able to handle some of this so that their citizens can feel relieved. So the advice or whatever, the charges the president gives to the governors that they should do more, I think I'm in support of it, because he also knows how much is going to state governors now, and he knows that many of them are not even using it. I mean, you cannot be able to come up with white farm projects that are not going to be beneficial to people. You should come up with at least things of this nature. Take the children out of the street. Let the parents feel the impact of this fuel subsidy that has been removed by the federal government in one aspect of our lives. I mean, they see that children can go to school, and it's a meal is given to them in school, and that meal has to be a standard meal. We're talking of malnutrition. Look at even the number of malnutrition we're talking about in the northern part of Nigeria. This meal should be able to serve as a way of eradicating from our children. Because if the children know too well that at least they have a better meal in the day in school, they'll be willing to go to school even when no matter how because the environment is, they will find a way to get to that school. That it can be like an attractive school to get them into enrolling.
Do you think the reason why the school feeding program was halted, maybe some persons are taking advantage of the scheme, or the scheme is not yielding the desired result in terms of acceleration of impact? Maybe certain persons are diverting funds and they have not disclosed to us because of that. That's one. Two, or is it possible that they want to merge it, all right, with this current initiative of the president ending nationwide poverty by the nationwide grassroots focused initiative, which is aimed at combating poverty and stimulating economic growth, rather than doing something different of 100 billion naira for out of school children and providing food for the children, and then creating another initiative that addresses ending poverty by going to each ward to ensure that they feel the impact of governance. And this obviously, like you said, is going to be done through the state governments and the local government. So do you think they halted that program to merge it with this? Because the problem sometimes with the administration is that they don't properly communicate. The sectors responsible for this, all right, or the agency or the ministry responsible for this does not communicate. So we just hear stuff, we read it online, they tell us this is the process, they commence it, supposedly halt it, or they don't even tell us the beneficiaries, those who have benefited from it, or give us data of how the program has been going. Like the credit card scheme, we've not heard of anyone who has benefited from it. The only one that gives us update on those benefiting, how many schools have benefited, is Now Fund.
Yeah, Esther, I was actually coming to give more like this matter, like you in Now Fund. If you see what happened earlier when Now Fund was coming up, Nigerians were like, it may not work, or it's because of there were so many bottlenecks and initial stage, but they went on, they started, scrutinizing it, and at this moment now, at least we can see Now Fund is now working. If there are infractions concerning this school feeding program in that manner, we want to see the government, if only they are suspending it, they suspend for a while to make sure that they look at all those bottlenecks that are leading to it not being successful, that is making that the people that it's meant for are not benefiting from it. Then let them come up and to strategize and bring it better, make it better, so that it will be part of the laudable programs or legacy program of this administration. We saw Buhari started it, but we know the corruption that was tinted around it. We still remember the former minister for humanitarian affairs, concerning even telling Nigeria that he was feeding students Nigerian cookies even when we were locked down during COVID. That one is still there. So such corrupt attitude that are surrounding some of these projects the government must find a way to make sure that they have to scrutinize it and make sure that appropriately is done, the right thing is done, so that it can be beneficial to those that is meant for. So for those ones that are for the governors who are not willing to key into it, like the president has advised, or he has given an order, then the state the indigenous citizens should be able to also speak on matters of this nature that are beneficial directly to the people. When we are talking of adding value, if you are going to add value, you add value to human beings, so that in another 5-10 years from now, children who are coming out of this program can give testimony that, So at a time like this, I was part of those programs, and look at the encouragement he gave to me. That level I am. We first enjoyed education for some years during the UPN and NPN time, during the Second Republic. Then in my state, the old Benin state, we enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for some years before the military came, where Buhari took over power in 1983. That now truncated it. But at the end of the day, I saw that my class, almost half of the students went home because they could not afford school fees. But those of us that managed to finish it today, that's why I could speak with you today now, that because I went to school. So we can still remember what Professor Ali did then in Benin State, all the UPN state. You know, they get free education at all levels. So we are still talking about it today. So let this kind of legacy program not be something that can be truncated or allow corruption to now override it, and now so that the federal government will have to say it's suspended. Well, it can't be suspended. Look, those who can manage it well, and those who are turning to, you know, using it to line out their pocket, should be questioned by EFCC. Why do you have anti-corruption bodies? It's just for something.
That's the problem, Mr. Elvis. That's the problem. We are not seeing that sanitization in the system. For example, the president usually holds meetings with them. The FEC meeting, the Federal Executive Council meeting. Sometimes he holds meetings with the governors. In fact, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made governors access to him quite easy. So my question is, whenever they gather like that, why are questions not asked? Most times when we even see those gatherings and we see a little clip of it publicly, we don't see him berate them about these things. Monies are being sent to the system, but nobody is accounting for it. The level of corruption is so high, and that everyone is quiet is a brazen thing. So, for example, huge sums of monies like this released for projects. That is why a lot of people are complaining that in as much as there are statistics that they're saying that, oh, the economy is doing well, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing well with some of the policy initiatives, the people are saying they're not seeing it. They're not seeing it. So why are they not seeing it? Where are the monies going? Who are the people benefiting from these initiatives? Where is the data to prove that indeed these monies are properly being channeled? Some person didn't even know that a school feeding program had commenced, not to talk of it even being suspended, because the money was approved in March. You know, the bureaucratic bottlenecks involved in things like this before they put money aside. It was in March, 100 billion naira. I remember we talked about it here in the studio. This is August. Today is the 1st of August. So no one even knew that the school feeding program had commenced. If you go to the ministry's website, you may not even see how many schools have received funds, the pictures of the schools, how the children are receiving the food and all that. We're not hearing testimonials. So why are Nigerians still complaining if these initiatives are meant to address the needs of the poor, the needs of the vulnerable, and there is no explanation as to why it is suspended? Now we are hearing of a new initiative eradicating poverty nationwide by collaborating with the wards in all this local government. They haven't told us when they will start, but then obviously they will have to go through the process of the state government, then the local government. So what caused the suspension? How do they intend to ensure that this process now that they want to commence will be transparent? Who will be held accountable if monies are released and nobody utilizes the money? And why is it that the presidency is always quiet to issues like this? They only respond to political opponents.
That's the reason why we should be talking of the anti-corruption agency strengthening to do more or to do their job adequately, Esther. If the federal government has found corruption in the system for a project of this nature, then the people involved should be picked up. Let me tell you, Esther, nobody thought the net fund will work, but today it's working gradually. Nigerians are the people that are manning that agency that has never existed in this nation before, that is working now. So there are still so many Nigerians that can do this in this nation, that have this kind of credibility, that can do this. But unfortunately, politicians will not allow those who can handle issues, that will make it to be beneficial to people to get to that position. They want to line it up with those people that will be answerable to them and turn the agency to their own private purse. But unfortunately, the anti-corruption agency itself will not look into that and do that. You have just mentioned something. Statistics matters in this kind of issue. Data. How many schools are involved? Where is the pilot scheme taking up? How many states have started it? How many children are fed every day? How many farmers have we registered that are supplying food? How many vendors, that supplies the food? And where are the cooks coming from? How many of them? We have not known all this. Nobody is aware of it there. But we heard that 100 billion was going to be released for it. But at the time you made mention of that, the hawks are already stationed everywhere to make sure that they are going to prefer that money immediately because no adequate authorities have been set up to manage that fund. Before you start mentioning such funds, such humongous funds, you have set up adequate agencies so that Nigerians will know the people that are involved in the management of that fund. So at the end of the day, if it is not working, we cannot mention name. We cannot say, what, this is the head of the agency, why has it not worked? We can question. But today, everything was shrouded in secrecy. But all we heard was that 100 billion was going to be released. And at the end of the day, we are hearing that it's suspended. What happened between March and today, 1st of August, that with Nigerians are not, the federal government cannot pay Nigerians? So that by the time you say you are suspending, we'll know the reason why you are suspending it. Okay, are you bringing it back in a better reject form? Are you trying to sanitize the system so that when it comes back to tell us, okay, this was the reason why we suspended it, and now it is better. These are the people to hold responsible. You hire them, announce them to Nigeria, let Nigerians know their portfolio and know what they are supposed to do, and begin to follow them up. We cannot begin to discuss the progress or the failure of such agency under the management of social person in the media as we are talking now. But today we are just talking in darkness because we have never heard the names of those people that were to manage that 100 billion when it was mentioned. We've never heard their name. We've never known whether they were even appointed or sworn in. We don't even know how much has been released. We don't even know the number of persons, oh Lord God, that benefited from it. Which state was into it, or what was the federal government contribution to state to add to it. But we heard the president telling the state governors, about a week ago, telling them that they should work more ground. That means the president is also feeling that the state governors are not doing as expected. The president is looking at it that the money they are collecting in Abuja, the people are not feeling it. The people are supposed to feel this money because before you can add value to any system, it is the people first. It's the people that will drive your value. It's the people that will say, the human angle of this government, is top notch. Unfortunately, Nigerians every day still go cap in hand to even talk of having 1 or 2 meals a day. That means to tell you that the money is hanging somewhere. It's not getting to the level that the president also wants to get to. To make mention of local government, we have heard that local government have become autonomous. This Supreme Court judgment that the federal government got. See, today, we have not heard that any local government is started receiving their funds directly from the federal government. The state governors are still sticking on it. Why are state governors becoming emperor in Nigeria? Why is it that the federal government cannot hold state governors accountable to most of their initiatives from the federal level? They are not trickling down to the people.
In fact, Mr. Elvis, I even wonder, from 2015, we've seen this, would I call it slow or this disconnected approach between the executive and the governors when it comes to the executive, the president asking the governors, I need to see what you're doing. I need to feel what you're doing in these states. We saw late Muhammadu Buhari always oblivious of what was going on. There were even talks that he was not even the one in charge of his government. People will tell him that this is what is happening. It is when things get so intense, he will come out and say, I didn't know that this is what was going on. We're supposedly experiencing the same thing, but this time around, the only difference is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has told us that he is in charge of his government. There is no cabal telling him what to do. There are no cabals dictating to him what to do. So everything he is doing, everything happening, he knows about it. So if he knows about it, why are we not seeing that firm resolve when he addresses the governors that you are the ones making the administration infamous? If some Nigerians are saying, anybody, we don't want Tinubu anymore. Some Nigerians are complaining terribly about the state of the nation, about their living condition, with the insecurity in the country, the dilapidated infrastructures, our moribund health sectors, our refineries that are not working, the educational sector, literally out of school children in their thousands out there. And if these are the complaints, we know the parastatals, ministries and agencies, the governors and the states that are meant to help this thing very easy. Why is that gavel not handed down? Why is the gavel not handed down?
Two things are involved here, Esther. One is politics. So much of politics.
Politics in everything, even when it has to do with as little as
the governors. Let me tell you, Esther. The governors are playing politics with the life of Nigerians. The governors and the president is finding it difficult to actually accuse the governors because the governors are the kingmakers. The governors can tell. Yes, the governors of this nation has become so powerful to the extent that if they said President Tinubu is not coming back in 2027, even to get the party's ticket, they can work against him.
You think so? With what happened in Rivers, yes, with how the president took that unilateral decision in Rivers?
No. Esther, when it comes to electoral matter, when it gets to electoral campaign or picking up the candidate for the party, that governors forum you are saying there, they can work against the presidency. They can work against the presidency. You see, in 2023, Vice President Atiku Abubakar was closer to the governors of the state than the president there, Olusegun Obasanjo. And you see,
in 2003, you mean?
In 2003. You see, it was difficult for President Obasanjo to get that second term ticket because almost all the governors were getting there because Atiku was able to, get closer to the governors than himself. So that is the problem we have with this governors forum. This governors forum, they have a way of it's almost becoming like a court when it comes to picking the president that is going to be president of this nation. So that's why you see, and again, the president is looking at it as they are both elected democratically. The president cannot order them because they are also voted into power in their respective states. The same way the president is voted into power as the president of this nation.
The president cannot order them. The situation with Rivers has demystified a lot of things.
It can only come on advisory role. Forget about the Rivers problem. The Rivers problem is more political. We know those that are driving it. Constitutionally, the president cannot, or he can advise them. And this is where we are talking about political party. The only people that would have been able to take this one into is the political party that brought these governors and the president into power. The executives of the political parties were vibrant and respected. They could say, come, we don't want our party to lose the next election. And if you are not doing well, we stand the ground of losing the next election. Because the people that we vote, if they are not feeling the positive impact of the government, they'll vote against us. But unfortunately, look at the way the leadership or the executive of political parties are now being appointed in Nigeria. We just saw APC change their chairman that day. We thought that the other one resigned. Nobody know what is happening, what actually led to its resignation. I also heard that the former one, Abdullahi Adamu, resigned. Nobody knew what led to his resignation before Ganduje was brought in. Ganduje again resigned. We don't know what led to Ganduje's resignation before this new one. So if you look at the way the chairmen of the political parties are now appointed, they are not, it's an issue. The person who appointed them or who were part of their support, they cannot order him to say, do what you are supposed to do to the people because they want to keep their office. Unfortunately, since the political party executives are not working well, they are supposed to checkmate their elected governors or presidents under their platform. Things of this nature will continue to happen because the political parties have been hijacked, the executive of political parties have been hijacked, and as a result, one person comes to pick the leadership of the political party executives. And when they are brought sworn into office, they cannot look at them eyeball to eyeball and say, no, this is how I want my party to function because my party should be closer to the people than to our elected officials. Unfortunately, that's the issue. That's why you see presidents pick the chairman.
All right. Mr. Elvis, finally, before I let you go, there was a report that went viral that Atiku spoke with journalists that he's going to declare his candidacy very soon. His candidacy in the ADC. And then when he was asked, okay, how do you intend to go about it in the primaries? He said, have you ever seen me lose primaries? Paul Ibe, the media advisor to Atiku, has dismissed those reports suggesting that the former presidential candidate is planning another bid for the 2027 elections. And the clarification follows the circulation of a viral video that went viral on X, where Atiku was reportedly heard saying he would make a formal announcement about his political future. The clip has been widely interpreted by some commentators as a signal of the former People's Democratic Party presidential candidate's intention to run for president again in 2027. So here is the thing. Do you think this is as a result of the whole imbroglio about whom the ADC will actually give their ticket to? Atiku has not come out to tell us categorically categorically that he's stepping down for any southern candidate. We know that in the ADC, the persons who have the presidential aspiration there is Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, and Rotimi Amechi. So far, there have been talks that Peter Obi should be chosen as the presidential flag bearer for the ADC, or if at all they want to do an open primary, since it's the time of the South, that Atiku should not be part of those that will vie. That rather it should be the Southerners there, which this time around has to do with Peter Obi and Rotimi Amechi. So in that regard, would you be surprised that we're having this kind of situation where something that is old now seems to be new and could be interpreted as real when these political actors are not speaking as to telling their supporters the true state of things?
Well, it's a shame, Esther, that even the so-called ADC Nigerians were looking onto. In fact, when I saw the constitution of the ADC, I knew it was not going to go anywhere. Atiku is greedy. He wants to get to that power by all means. But let me tell you, if ADC gives the presidential ticket to him, it is just a walkover for President Tinubu to get his second tenure, because it is obvious that, first of all, we are talking about the presidency should go to the South for the next 8 years. And if it is given to him, that means he wants to utter it. And Nigerians, especially Nigerians, the certain Nigerians will say, no, it is our turn. They had 8 years in Buhari. Now it's our own 8 years. So there's going to be a kind of block vote, a revolt vote that will be against him, even if he's giving the ticket from the ADC. And I want to even tell you that even before he gets to the time of sharing the ticket of ADC or whoever is getting it, ADC is going to have problems, Esther. The same problem that came into PDP in 2019 that led to 2023 that led to Obi leaving
but he has not. Obi has indicated his interest. Rotimi has indicated his interest, but Atiku has not said openly that he intends to run. So why the heightened speculation and narrative all over? Is it because he has not said anything, or could it be that some persons are touting him?
But if you look at the political calculation, he has said that he has never lost any primary.
That was in 2023.
That was the 2023, and that same formula is going to play out. If you look at the constitution, the ADC as it stands now, almost most of his political allies are the ones that are talking about the ADC. Nobody, I don't think Amechi is not strong enough to look at Atiku eyeball to eyeball to get the ticket. Be actually chipping out of PDP because of Atiku's ticket in 2023. So if you look at the scenario around, you just discover that everybody in ADC is already running around Atiku to become their presidential flag bearer. And if he becomes their presidential flag bearer, I'm telling you, there's going to be block vote for APC for Tinubu to complete his 8 years. If Tinubu is giving the ticket for APC to come back, and Southerners will say no, we are revoting it. It cannot go to the north because we have to also have our own 8 years. The brother just ended 8 years. So when we have those kind of revenge votes, Esther, things of this nature, or even his 2027 ambition will also be dashed. Because I don't see him as the best person to have been to, if ADC is actually formidable enough and they want to actually become a formidable opposition to APC, even Atiku Abubakar the ticket for him to fly their flag in 2027 would be a big mistake from their own part.
Interesting. Mr. Elvis Alle, thank you so much for giving us your time, actually, in giving us your perspective to some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you, Esther. It's my pleasure. Have a nice
weekend. And I hope to see you live in the studio, possibly this weekend during the political spotlight.
Before the end of next week, we'll do that.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm in town.
All right, okay, thank you. And just before we go, let's look at stories outside the shores of Nigeria. Stock markets around the world have opened lower as U.S. President Donald Trump has announced new tariffs on more than 90 countries. An economic advisor to the president says he sees zero evidence prices on goods will rise for Americans, but warnings are swirling that tariffs will hit consumers directly. Trump announced higher tariffs for many Canadian goods, but most products are exempted due to a free trade agreement, while Mexico has escaped higher levies for another 90 days. Switzerland, meanwhile, is facing worse than a worst-case scenario. And also, the U.S. president is touting tariffs as an answer to trade deficits with other nations. And that's a wrap on the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.